Hey, g'day guys, it's Adam from VideoShowMeHow. And in this video, we're going to be running through how to install a lower ball joint into your axle. Let's get started. Now, depending on what type of axle you have and what sort of situation you're in, you may need to install the lower before the upper before the lower. It really depends. It also depends on the type of ball joint press that you're going to be using. This is a pretty basic version, but you can get bigger, complicated versions with tons more of the different parts that come with it. If you don't have one of these, you can check out the links there. I've got a few purchase sort of options for you to be able to check out. Otherwise, go to your local tools shop, your local auto store. A lot of the times they'll actually hire these out. Sometimes even just lend them out, so you can always check that out. But you are going to need one of these to be able to install these guys back into your axle. In this video though, we're going to be focusing on the lower ball joint and how you can install that nice and easily into your axle housing. Now, depending on what type of ball joint that you're installing, these are a TerraFlex heavy duty ball joint. Some of them have extra grease nipples, some of them only have one on the top, some of them don't have any. So it just depends on what type you have. It's worth checking though if you do, and in this case obviously we have two, is double checking which orientation that they need to be going. And in this case, they need to be sitting in that way so that they're facing out that way and facing out that way, so that when all this is, and there's a wheel here, you can still get grease in from this way and in from this way. So the first step is to grab a file, a round file, and you don't want to be really going to town on the inside here. It's really just to knock off any sort of burrs on the outsides on either rim, so on the bottom section or on the top. You just want that nice and smooth for when you're installing your new ball joint. So once you've cleaned up the surfaces here and they're all nice and cleaned up, the next step is to grab your ball joint press clamp and then start working out, well, what are the pieces that you're going to need from your kit to be able to clamp this guy up into the housing itself. So inspect the ball joints that you have and check out the surfaces. We want to be able to have one of these pieces that will sit along the edge here, so that when we're pushing up this way, it has something nice and solid and flush to be able to push against, so you get a nice even amount of force. So we put that guy down there. It's going to be one of these, probably that one. Yeah, there we go. So you can see that that's nice and even all the way across when we have that together, and you can see how that's going to work. So maybe not as offline as that, but nice and square. You can see that we're going to be able to push up that way and push it in nice and even force across the ball joint itself. So that's the part for the lower. The next part is we want to get something for the top section here. And as you can see with that clamp, we want something to sit around the outside so that it's not touching what's going to be coming up and through here. So we'll grab the next size up, which is this guy, and perfect. So you can see it's not going to be impeding anything coming up and through, and that we've got a good surface mount on the housing itself to be able to provide that clamping force of the ball joint going up and through. So that's our top, that's our bottom. Now we just need to work out which one of these guys we're going to be using to provide that clamping plate. That sits in the top there, nice and easy. That's this is going to sit into in the top here like that. And then something on the bottom that's going to sit over the ball joint itself, which this guy will do the job. If we get that in the right way. And you can see that that clips in there so that it's going to provide that even force again. So if we get this ready to go, obviously don't want that on there. This sits in there like that. And you can see we've still got plenty of room for the shaft. This circled section is what's going to mount in to our pressing force here. And then ultimately this will sit up inside the ball joint like that. We'll apply the clamp at the top here and at the bottom and start pushing it in. And before you align the ball joint for the final time, just get a little dab of grease, just run it along the inside face of the axle itself. That's just going to help in making this go in nice and smoothly. And once you've done that and got grease all over the camera, grab your ball joint, line up the alignment marks if you have them. In this case, these are the ones that are going one out that way, one out that way. Line it up underneath and then just give it a good whack underneath. and it will stay in there while you get your clamp all together. Now, if you find that your clamp isn't large enough, which is the case with this one, it's not actually enough room for it to fit into here. You may have to just readjust. It's no big deal. All we're able to do is swap out this guy for a smaller one, and in this case we're going to use this cap. You just want to make sure that there is enough spacing in there, because you don't want this to be contacting the top there. So if you do use something like that, just make sure you've got plenty of clearance for that to sit on there, just like that, and then clamp it in just like that. So once you're good to go, this is what it's going to look like. You can see kind of how this is going to work, right? That's going to push down. This can't go anywhere, so the force is going to be applied up underneath, and this should go up into there. So next, grab the right size socket for the top. In this case, it's a 21 mil. So you can put that guy on there ready to go. And then it sort of depends on what tools that you have at hand. If you have a rattle gun, totally recommend using one of those guys, a ton easier. Otherwise, you can use a ratchet spanner or a breaker bar, that kind of deal, to be able to force this guy up and in. And there we go, one nice installed lower ball joint. Just verify that underneath here the lip is absolutely nice and flush and it can't go up anymore. You can see that our alignment worked out pretty well. If you do have your grease nipples, now's the time to install them. And once they're in, just remember to actually add the grease. From there though, once you've done that, the grease is in there, you're good to go. You have one installed lower ball joint. Well, I hope that was helpful for the project that you're installing some lower ball joints into. If you did find it helpful, consider giving a bit of a thumbs up, a bit of a like in the section there below. Consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. There's stacks of other sort of how-to videos just like this one already on the channel, and I'm making more of these on a regular basis and uploading them. You can hit the bell icon, and what that does is notifies you as soon as one of the new videos is uploaded. Well, that's it for this one. As always, I hope that you have an amazing day, and I will catch you in the next video. Cheers, guys.